Welcome to another edition of the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, episode 374, MCDC OC Extraordinaire. My name's Matthew Turner, alongside Anthony Fitzpatrick. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm not doing bad. Any victory Monday is a good Monday. We will take it in any way, shape, or form. After last week, you feel down a bit, you feel sorry for yourself a little bit, and then, the good thing is next game comes along, you've got a chance to right the ship, and we did that. It was a good game, fun, nice, and no cardiac cats. I've still got the same life expectancy today as I did yesterday, which is always a fun one. So. Yeah, it's I say there is no such thing as a bad victory Monday, so I am a happy ant today.
Welcome to everyone on the live chat for being here. Just want to highlight an excellent comment by Grandizer in the chat, who has just made me laugh by saying, "We've just got another report that the Lions have scored another touchdown versus the Commanders." It's still happening. It was one of those games for the Washington Commanders, unfortunately for them, unfortunately for us. We are going to go through all of that in just a moment. Many thanks to Cooldown Rat for subscribing with Prime on Twitch for his 34th month. Many thanks indeed. We are going to go through the game. We're going to go through some news, some injury stuff. We're going to get on to Dan Campbell. Of course, I alluded to it in the title of the show. The fact that he has taken offensive play calling duties, at least for now. But first, please do come and join our Discord channel. Link in the live chat right now. College Football Podcast coming up later on in the week, and it was a cracking weekend of college football again, featuring maybe the best finish and best catch to win a game you may ever see.
Yeah, there were some teams who really put their big boy pants on this week in terms of, are they at where they want to be at? Do they have that new identity about them? And yes, they did. We're closing in on the end of the season now. It's great. The draft stuff's starting to come into focus. It's the best time of year. There's playoff rankings abound. So we have an absolute ton of stuff to talk about as always, which will be good fun.
If you didn't catch the end of the Indiana game, do just go and listen to the final 15 seconds of it, because I think Gus Johnson is still coming.
Yes, I believe he is.
His reaction is one of the best things I've ever heard a sports journalist say. Like, just pure, raw emotion. And that's all you want to hear from sports commentators, is that they actually get excited about this shit.
I mean, to be honest, I did have a boner for several hours afterwards, so, it was...
You need to go and see your position.
I do, yes. Or I need to get a lady in my life. That's what I need. That's what I can really, really do. So every time you get those boner-inducing catches, you've got somewhere to go use them. So,
you could have a blue pill, or you could have Indiana football.
Exactly. That's all I need in my life right now. So
Anyway, so College Football Podcast later on the week. Do check it out. I mean, we're getting to the money part of the year for college football now. So, the end of the season's coming up in the next couple of weeks. The title games are going to be decided. Bowl games are going to get finalised. Playoffs are going to get finalised. Will there be controversy about who gets in? Of course there will be. Every single year. Vandy will get screwed. I'm saying it now. I'm just saying that they'll find a way to not get Vandy into a 12-team playoff. I'm calling it.
Anyway. Oh no, not the nation's sweetheart. They should get in there somehow, some way. But yeah, it's going to be fun. Let's just say that much. We will also be doing our bit about going under the radar teams, and Vandy will probably be in there. So it's all good. There's a lot of teams flying under the radar this year, and a lot of players as well. It's time to do draft prospects, which we'll be doing. So a lot to go through.
All right. News. Elevator for this game was offensive lineman Michael Neese. Of course, the Lions were in need on the offensive line, so that is no surprise. Inactive for this game, we already knew about Jacob Saylors at running back, Pat O'Connor on the defensive line, and Kirby Joseph at safety. Joining them was defensive line men Quinton Jefferson and Mekhi Wingo, and safety Eric Hallett. Injured in the game, tackle Penny Sewell actually went into the locker room at some point with an issue, but ended up returning to the game. He's an absolute warrior. Centre Graham Glasgow exited, I think, right at the end of the first half and was back for snap one of the second half. But he looked in a really, really bad way. No, he did. He didn't. He took off a series. Sorry, Cologne came in for a series, didn't he? My mistake. But Glasgow looked in a bad way on the field and still ended up returning to the game. And to his credit, had maybe his best game of the season, which is really good news. Cornerback Terry Arnold was ruled out with a concussion early in the second half. Obviously did not return. He got a concussion. His status for Sunday Night Football coming up against the Eagles is very much going to be up for grabs. And then wide receiver Khalif Raymond had some sort of issue coming off the field late on in the game. And in the ensuing situations where you would have expected to see him on the field, especially special teams, he was not there. So it's going to be interesting to see if he comes up on the injury report this week. Other bits of news coming from this game. Deron Payne, defensive tackle, was ejected for punching Amon-Ra St. Brown. There's some suggestion that he didn't let Payne get up a couple of reps before that off the ground or something like that, and Payne took two snaps to end up reacting to that. A bit of a delayed reaction. Javon Kinlaw, after the punch on Amon-Ra St. Brown, he was also flagged for touching the ref. He kind of threw a punch at him by the look of it, but he wasn't ejected. It's a bit weird. You could also see him jawing at Jared Goff during the game and generally just trying to get flags to really get under the skin of the Detroit players, but none of them bit. I'm going to stop there because we've got one obviously really big bit of news to talk about, which I'm going to leave to the end. All the injuries, and there were several, and you know, it was a bit of a worry for the time, especially when Sewell went down, Glasgow goes down, especially with everything we've been dealing with. It kind of felt like it could have been one of those days, and it looks like everyone, apart from Arnold, maybe has kind of come through.
Yeah, you always get worried, especially with the offensive line. We can't really afford any more injuries there at the minute because we've not really got much depth left to go at the position. But like Penne, is made of titanium. Like he gets hurt, he'll be back in a moment. I literally think you could kneecap both his knees and he would still play to an all-pro level. He'd just defy the logic of the human body and carry on playing. I don't think there's any way you can keep Penne down ever. And Graham, like I say, it was just an impact injury. Graham, Tate Ratledge decided to turn into an Olympic gymnast and start doing some of, he's playing Mortal Kombat, doing his little spinneroonie shit through the air and hit him on the back of the knee. Obviously, I think that's kind of an impact thing. I think that I laughed when Graham described it. He was like, "Oh, I just turned my head round and he was doing some spinny shit in the air and hit me on the back of the knee." And it was just like, yeah, sounds brutally honest about what it was, but yeah, we're healthy for the most part, which is good. Obviously, with Terry and you hope the concussion isn't too bad, but in terms of how injuries go, we've come through this relatively unscathed. Given 2 of the 3 games coming up, that is very good. We don't want no more injuries. We're just getting back to full health again.
The final bit of news is it became clear very early on that Dan Campbell was a bit more involved on offense. He had reading glasses and he was clearly talking before the snap. Eventually, it was revealed that everyone thought Dan Campbell was calling the plays. It was confirmed at half-time that he was doing so. And in a press conference after the game, just half an hour ago, he has confirmed that him calling plays going forward is, and I quote, the right thing to do right now. And one of my questions was going to be before the press conference, should he continue to be the play caller? But we can address all of that right now. I think Dan Campbell was always very careful with his words, despite the fact that he has a reputation of shooting from the hip. I find the wording of this very interesting, because he did not give any sort of time frame for when he might keep it and when he might let it go again. He just said, it's the right thing to do right now. But I think that leaves the door open for him to relinquish it again as early as he likes. He clearly doesn't really want to be the person doing it long term. He talked about the fact that, it could happen in the future, longer term, but that he seems to quite like being the head coach and not the offensive play caller. But on this evidence, he's pretty bloody good at it.
No, he is, and he's shown now twice. Hopefully, all those dumbass NFC North fans who didn't think he had anything to do with Big Ben's offense before he started there have now been put in their places. That this is a guy who can run it. But our offense isn't easy, and sometimes working with all these star players at your disposal is a hindrance because you're trying to find a way to feed them all. You're trying to find a way to make it work, and it just seems that Morton's just not been here long enough to deal with it. Ben Johnson's one saving grace was he was here years, before he got that offensive coordinator job. He understands the style Dan wants to play. He understands what he's got at his disposal. I think it's easier for him to move into that role and start right away. But, Morton has not been here, and it's very clear that he doesn't know how to operate it yet. It's trying to play a fine guitar or something like that, or you've got to have practice first, and sometimes you've got to let the teacher do the training, and then eventually when you're good enough and the teacher feels you're ready, he'll eventually let you go on it and start shredding. So I think it's that sort of scenario now. I think if you try to give Morton the responsibility, you see that he's not quite there with it, so you take it back on again. And as he said, it's a very collaborative process. All the coaches are still involved with it, but the actual execution of it during the game is his now, whilst it is still a collaborative effort. But I think Dan's got a better feel for games. He's got a better rhythm with it. He can feel which way tides are going. We said with Ben what he's good is Ben told a story with his offenses and did it with the feel of the game and how it was going, which is good. Dan can do the same thing. John Morton cannot do that yet, so he's going to have to wait and learn. And it does, like you say, raise the suggestion that maybe he might get it back one day. It also raises the suggestion that he may never get it back if Dan deems him never worthy of doing it, and there may be someone else doing it next year as well. But the critical thing is Dan has recognized this problem early and he has nipped it in the bud early. It's one of his best things as a coach. People think he's loyal to 100% to everybody and will almost too loyal in a way, and sometimes it can be a detriment putting too much faith in people. Dan has shown that he is loyal to people, but if they ain't pulling their weight properly, and it's going to be a detriment to the team going forward, he will make decisions quick and he will overrule it. You couldn't afford a loss in this game. You got two of the next three against very difficult opponents. You can't afford to go on a losing streak in there. You've got to get your offense firing. So he's like, right, I'll do it. I know I can do it. It's a sign of a good head coach, just nipping problems before they become a real thing. So I'm glad he's done it. I hope he does it for a while yet, and until someone else is ready, Dan is the best person to do it, which is the best for the team.
I'm just going to quote Danny Rogers, who has tweeted, Dan Campbell gave a smirk when told that the glasses look gave away that he was calling plays yesterday. He said he's prepared to call the plays again this week and that he has all the right people around him. He just needed to tweak some things and get everyone into the best positions. Sorry, the last word had been cut off the snippet that I had seen. That sounds very much like it's going to be a week-to-week thing that he's prepared to call it next week. And that's all he's committing to right now. For myself, this felt, for the first time this season, like the Lions before this season. And considering how cohesive it was in previous years with Ben, that's fantastic news, because I think you in the off-season, Ant, you always spoke about the fact that you're not fussed about the one seed or anything like that. Get to the playoffs, win in the playoffs. I don't really care about the rest. And I agree with that, but only to a point. And the point there for me is, show me that you can turn it on when you need to. Because if you're going to be like the Chiefs, who always seem to start badly and come on hot towards the end of the year, or the Eagles, who can just kind of steamroller teams towards the end of the season, show me you deserve that sort of faith by being able to play that way. I don't care if you don't do it all season, as long as you kind of... It's like a good cornerback. Like Derek Stingley, he had that one good season in college, two pretty naff seasons after that. And he got drafted because he's this elite cornerback. And everyone goes, whoa, 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 he hasn't been good for 2 years. And it's like, but he has been elite and he hasn't lost it. Keep the faith. For me, this is the sort of game that we've put on tape where I can now say, as long as we get in the playoffs, just get in the playoffs. Because if we can turn this on, we can win everything. We can win the whole damn thing. I had not seen this yet this season until now. And it's given me a lot of comfort. I know the Commanders are bad. But even against bad teams this season, we hadn't blown them away. We hadn't played a complete game. We hadn't played complementary football, even against the bad teams. This is the first time this season where we've actually put it all together. Yes, they're bad, but they're not the Titans. And they're not other teams of that ilk. They're not the Saints. This Commanders team is still moderately frisky. And I think we'd be doing ourselves a disservice to say otherwise, because in the preview we were saying you can't overlook this team. So I don't think we can have it both ways and say, but they're god awful, so it doesn't mean anything.
I mean, conversely, we were 5-3 before this game, and as you said, not playing good football. No one's going to remember that come the playoffs if you win. Hence why the regular season doesn't really matter. As long as you get it on when it matters, then it's fine.
Mm.
And we've seen the team can do it when it matters. So I don't care if they play like this for the rest of the year. I know they can do it when the situation requires it. I've just get to the dance at this point. But as to the point about Washington, I will, we don't watch other teams week in, week out and see. We only have our preconceived notions of them and maybe a little bit of what we see in that. And, you can't understand that team dramatically. Yes, we did big them up going into this and thought they might be difficult, but having watched them in the flesh now, that's a fucking rank team. This is the only thing I'm going to have pause about from this game. That team tried to play football for a half and couldn't hang with us, and then they quit. It's one of the most boring ass games I've watched in a long time, and it's the only thing. Yes, we played great offensively, and I loved it. And the actual way we did it, and on defense as well, we did some things we haven't done, which I loved. Like we've executed perfectly. I need to see it against credible opposition now, because that was not credible opposition that I saw out there. It was a team that looked like they were on their way to Mexico already, which was it was disappointing. Um, You'd think a team like that, whose backs were up against the wall, would be ready to fight a little bit more, but they just wanted to run their mouths and try and turn this into a dirty affair and get people ejected and break up the tempo of it. That's what they would do. Like in soccer over here, when you've got a clearly not so good team trying to break up any momentum a superior team has and try to drag it into some sort of slugfest. The only way you can win. That's what they were trying to do. They weren't trying to play football, so.
I never thought you were going to
Um,
equate the Commanders with the Bolton Wanderers, but there we go.
exactly. It's they were trying to drag us down to a level that was not becoming of us. And they were trying to drag us into this fest, trying to get us to make mistakes, trying to provoke us. And thankfully, the team knew better than that. But, what I thought the Commanders might have been before this game is not what I saw. It was they are a very bad football team. So this was better. I need to see this against Philly now, an actually good football team. If we go do this against Philly, then I will come on here and say, my God, we've really turned a corner on this. But unfortunately, the level of opposition in this one has just tempered a little bit what's gone on. But again, at the same point, I'm not going to complain. I said I wanted to win here, there, or anywhere, however we did it, and we did it in the most dominating fashion possible. I will never, ever apologize for that.
All right, let's go into the game itself. Lions ran out 44-22 victors. Goff was 25 of 33 for 320, three touchdowns, no picks. On the ground were led by Gibbs. He had 15 carries for 142 yards and two touchdowns. He also had 3 of 4 for 30 and a touchdown through the air. David Montgomery almost went at 5 yards a carry as well. He was 15 for 71. Receiving wise, Jameson Williams led the team 6 of 7 for 119 and a touchdown and a welcome return to form. Amon-Ra St. Brown was 5 of 8 for 58 and a touchdown. Otherwise, going over to the Washington side of the ball, Marcus Mariota has an efficient performance, didn't throw the ball too much, but didn't have too many misses. He was 16 of 22 for 213, two touchdowns, no picks. They really struggled to run the ball, though. Their 27 carries resulted in 93 yards and a touchdown combined. Bill Krusky-Merritt was at less than 3 yards a carry. Chris Rodriguez was at less than 3 yards a carry as their lead backs. Jeremy McNichols in relief was 5 for 25, but the game was all but gone when he came in. Receiving-wise, Treylon Burks led the team 3 of 3 for 58. Their receiving touchdowns came from Deebo Samuel, 4 of 5 for 29 and a touchdown, and Ben Sinnott, the tight end, 1 of 1 for 4 and a touchdown. On defense, Jack Campbell led the team with 9 tackles. We had 2 sacks, one by Branch and one shared by Branch and Roy Lopez. We also have 1 additional TFL by Roy Lopez. Didn't actually touch the player, mind you. On defense for the Commanders, they were led by Bobby Wagner and Quan Martin with 9 tackles apiece. They had no sacks or tackles for a loss in this game in a chastening performance. In terms of the special teams, Noah Igbenogany had 1 really good return quite early on in the game for 46 yards. Otherwise, the Lions held that pretty much in check. Kick return wise for the Lions was pretty good with Vaki and Raymond. Punt returns, we had absolutely nothing. 3 returns for 3 yards, with a long of 5, the other two going for -2 combined. Jake Bates was 3 of 3 in field goals. He did have an extra point blocks, though, so he was only 3 of 4 for extra points. Matt Gay was 1 of 1 in field goals and extra points, respectively. We did not punt. Tressway was excellent punting the ball for Washington. His 4 went for 200. But as I said, with Raymond's returns, their kick coverage was great. He has good hang time. It worked really well for them and actually pinned us back. The fact that we managed to score on every possession and not punt was not down to the fact that we had pretty much any short fields whatsoever. We just played spectacularly well. And some real big numbers in this game. I will say, though, not on defense. Only 2 sacks. There was some pressure up front. Mariota actually completed quite a lot of his passes. We didn't give up a lot on the ground. It's a bit of a weird one, this, because time of possession's pretty equal too. I mean, I think we were up by 5 minutes or so. So just having a look at the overall stats, yeah, much bigger numbers for the Lions, but it's quite hard to tell what the Commanders massively did wrong in this game. I think on offense, at the very least, they couldn't stop us on defense, but Mariota was efficient with the ball in hand, and time of possession's pretty equal.
I mean, it's very easy to see what went wrong with them. They had a stop rate of 0%. Like, that's your issue right then and there. And your inability to muster decent offense. I mean, yes, you got some big splash plays and that, but we were committed to stopping them running the football. Last thing you want to do is give Mariota a bit of time and space to throw. Because like I said, he's very accurate and he can hurt you. And they were taking shots downfield on us. But thankfully, our DBs held up very well. Terrian was tremendous. A lot of guys back there made good plays. So when you're stopping the run and, you're able to exert a bit more for that, you'll take a few shots here and there. But at the end of the day, it didn't cost us, and even when they did get touchdowns, there was never any danger in this game. We put them at arm's length early, which is what we did. And they're not a team without Daniels designed to play from behind. So, but the story is the offense. They finally did what we expected of them, and that is use your weapons. You've got a lot of weapons. Morton's been force feeding the ball to certain people and, keeping others out the lineup in this. 4 targets for Jameer, 4 targets for Khalif, 7 for Jameson, 5 for Sam, 8 for Amon-Ra. You're spreading it all around the field. But the most critical thing you did, we talked about, is you used JMO. You used JMO from the off. Bob Morton has just not done that. He gives JMO a token route or two at the end of the game and a token throw, and that's all he does. And we've said, what has that led to? It's led to stacked boxes against the run, which is stopping us from running the football the way we want to and stopping us playing the game that we want to. What did we do in this? We aired it out immediately. We put it in JMO's hands immediately. JMO has the most yards in a game this season. He has the most yak in a game all season. And what does that mean? When you're using your speedster and he's getting good yardage down the field when he's got the ball in his hands, they back off. We played, 6% of snaps against us were fully loaded boxes. By far the least we've had to deal with this year, and it's no coincidence that Jameson Williams is your leading receiver on a game when that happens, because they're like, uh-oh, they're using the burner. We've got to take care of him. We've got to add a little additional resource for him. And what that also does is it opens up all the other targets as well. You're using Khalif, who you've not used at all. That's opening guys up. Amon-Ra's making his clutch plays as always. Laporta is, you're using your entire treasure trove of weapons, and the Commanders are going, well, how the hell do we defend against this? We can't. And you're using Jameer effectively out the backfield as well, so you're putting their linebackers under pressure, and they're all over the place. Using JMO just unlocked everything, and we didn't have to unlock him as some form of cheat code. We just threw the ball to him. So that is everything we wanted. The offensive line obviously should be given a lot of credit for the way it played as well. allowing the run to get going early, keeping Goff clean for the most part, again, allowing him to deal out dimes. It's everything we've been begging them to do. But using JMO was the most critical there. And then defensively, you did what you needed to. This wasn't a game where you need fancy sack stats or stuff like that. Let them have some easy yardage. Let them get some long grinding drives going. As long as you don't break at the end of them, you're fine. And you're finding new ways to get after the quarterback as well. What else did they do in this game? We talked last week about how one sack this season came from a DB because we've not been using them. Why are we not using Brian Branch more from that position to give us more? What did they do this week? 2 sacks for Brian Branch. Amazing game on defense for him, where we went after that statue that Marcus Murray wrote. Is he made big plays on him? And it's one thing we've been crying out for, so it takes a bit of pressure off the defensive line as well when you've got him back there making plays. It just makes everybody's life a lot easier. So, they were the adjustments that everyone saw we needed to make, and they executed them perfectly. So that bravo for that. I'm very happy. Like you said, we got back to the way we play football, but the way we play football is by using our playmakers and putting them in positions every single play, using them and using them to their full extent. We saw the best of JMO, the best of Branch, and it makes games so much easier when you do that.
Yeah, it is absolutely incredible. I did have, as one of the things to bring up here, the things that we have been calling for all season, all happening in one game. We talked about it, me and Ash, live on the call, just because it was absolutely remarkable. The first thing to note, in the very first drive, Gibbs had the first couple of reps, and then in came Monty for a couple of reps. We actually had an in-drive substitution at running back, and we just haven't seen that very much. I think it added some juice. The amount that we used Skipper was very, very notable, not only as an ex-receiver on the outside, but just as a sixth man. He attracted attention. Like, they think that something funky's happening when he's out there, and you then can just run a normal play, but they're distracted. So, like, it's quite interesting how we've done that. I actually, when Saul went out of the game, when he was wanted to come back in, but Skipper was playing right tackle, I was saying to Ash, put Saul on the outside. But all of that funky stuff becomes available when you're in the mindset that you can do that shit. And, that's really, really cool. We ran a play where there was a double fake with a wide receiver screen to Khalif Raymond. So you had Amon-Ra come in motion. You then had Jahmyr Gibbs in the backfield. You fake it to Gibbs. You fake it to, I can't remember who else it was, to Jameson Williams on an end around going in the other direction. And because he faked it to Gibbs, he's now the lead blocker on a screen to Raymond. And it's like, the invention that we're seeing in the plays is different today. Now, I don't really understand why maybe against this team we decided to completely unload everything, but we kind of did, and I don't know whether that's Campbell, I don't know whether that's Morton, but there seemed to be a bit more in the chamber yesterday. And then you mentioned Branch coming on safety blitzes. I mean, it's not happened all season. And just to say, by the way, the sack that Branch had that he shared with Roy Lopez had the filthiest spin move. I mean, Ash talked about the fact that it looked like Aiden Hutchinson out there with how twinkle-toed it was, or even Ali McNeil, and I say twinkle-toes, but the fact that, like, he pirouetted on a dime to get round his blocker, it was absolutely chef's kiss, All of that stuff is pretty simple stuff that we've been asking for all the way through this season when it looks like we've got no answers either on offense or defense, but it all came together. And I think this is the main question I have for John Morton, is it's not just about in-game play calling and about looking at slightly uninspired, but where were these plays in the playbook? And have they just been added this week? Or is it that Dan Campbell decided to unload it this week just because? There's so many questions arising from this which don't really stem from John Morton, the play caller, but from John Morton, the schemer, because I've been actually quite high on the fact that Morton's quite good probably at creating a scheme, and maybe he's just not the best in-game play caller. But this speaks to the scheme. There are things here that we haven't seen all season.
Yeah. But you need to, it's not about unloading an arsenal. You've got to run these plays. We hear about in preseason, we can't use this till the regular season. Then we're in the regular season, we can't use this to the playoffs. It's like, you've got to bloody use it some point. Like, we need to get used to these plays. We need to learn how to execute them properly now so we can use them in the playoffs. But most importantly, you've put all those plays out there now for the season. Defensive coordinators are going to be like, what, how the hell do we deal with this? Like, what are they going to pull on us now? That was Ben's calling card. People used to critique Ben a lot. They're like, oh, why is he doing this? Why is he doing it now? Save it for a big day. The point is, you keep making these plays and you keep adapting them and you keep getting better with them. And, you don't just use them and then they're out there and that's all you use. That's what a bad offensive coordinator does. You keep being innovative in what you do. But most importantly, you find what works and you keep running with it. Like JMO, they used him on crosses so much in this game because Washington couldn't guard it. Like the
It's an
amount that he
old
was
team.
making,
It's an
the
old
amount,
and slow team.
not only that, but JMO's IQ, the manipulation of defenders into getting them to run into one another and just causing outright panic in a defense. You get the ball with him in full speed, and then his ability to force missed tackles. Like, it's an underrated part of his game. People don't get it. The dude can stop on a dime, make your tackle air, and just burst past you. But the fact you're using him on that early, they saw that and they kept going to the well with it. They did it quite a few times because if it works, why not bloody use it? The thing that Bob doesn't do, Bob might do something that's effective once and then be like, okay, we've done it once, that's it. We're going to go back to the way I want to do things again. Like, we're just going to throw in this little trick every now and then, but we're just going to keep playing football the way I want to. It's about
Uh,
finding what works in a game and keeping with it. And
Shall we just explain who Bob is? Because there are some people who clearly, according to Twitter, aren't in on the joke yet.
Well, you know who Bob Morton is. Bob is John Morton. Matt just happened to call him Jim Bob Cooter the other week, and I accidentally called him Bob Morton like later on because I'd still got that comparison in my head. And Bob Morton just feels like a good fit now, so he's Bob. That's what he is. But anywho, his ability to not see things in games and not run with it.
Hmm.
The Lions did what they needed to in this, and then because you're using JMOs on crosses, and you're not just doing it once. Again, 7 receptions from in this game. Washington were never able to bring their defense back up to try and stop the run because we kept going back to JMO, and you kept them at arm's length, which allows you to run all the other plays as well. They're stuck between a rock and a hard place. It was clear Washington had no idea what to do to stop us. Because every time they showed us a look, we changed the play and we hit them in a different way. And that's what our offense should be. It's got so many elite weapons. It's got an elite speedster. It's got one of the best receivers in the NFL exploiting the middle of the field. You've got the best pair of running backs in the NFL. You've got a good offensive line. The point of having all these guys is having it as a moving chess piece. And you get the luxury in this league of seeing what the opposition's doing and what they're thinking, and you can move these pieces into place to exploit it. And that's what Dan did so masterfully in this game. Just felt like Washington was always on their heels. There were very few negative plays, and he broke them. Because Washington's defense eventually, all it was doing was running its mouth, asking for flags, trying to get calls, and getting stroppy with one another. And that is the sign that you've broken a unit because there's just nothing they could do to stop it. They didn't make a single stop all game, which is an indictment. And to an NFL defender, it's an embarrassment. And it makes you angry. And we got in their heads a little bit. It was lovely to see.
Two things on JMO. Obviously, his speed is something you have to account for. There were two incredible catches by him. Incredible catches, incredible routes by him, and they weren't the crosses. They were the comebacks. He had one rep in particular where the comeback was so crisp, and then the spin to the outside to beat the guy who was giving him space. I mean, his technique. He's becoming a technician. And with someone of his speed and height, weight, and, the guile that he has is bordering on outrageous. I am sick and tired of hearing national media people slate him because of something that we're not doing for him when he has clearly arrived. Like, he may even get better than this, but he's one of the best wide receivers in the NFL. And frankly, I think we're doing him a disservice by not doing what we just did for him yesterday every single week. And, we have an abundance of riches. He's just suffering for that. If he was in Seattle's offense and he was Jackson Smith and Jigba, he'd be doing that too. So, it's a shame for JMO in a way that he's not getting the plaudits he should have. I heard one national pundit say about Rashid Shaheed getting traded that they'd rather play Shaheed $20 million a year than Jameson Williams 27. And I think it's fucking ludicrous.
Oh, Vilma was saying fucking like, oh yeah, he just used to be a speed guy, that's all he was. And he's like, no, he wasn't. The fact is, this is how you can tell that no one watches your football team week in, week out. That people just say that he came into this league with just speed. I mean, it's rubbish. He's been arguably after Amon-Ra St. Brown, maybe I'd probably put him above Amon-Ra St. Brown, the best blocker on this team in terms of he's got the elite speed. He's got all the dirty work in the books, and he does it better than anybody at wide receiver in the league, does JMO. He's been an asset on that since day one. Speed is his traits, but we've seen the routes are good. And, I know the media like to beat him down a bit and say, well, it took him a while to learn this, but it takes every receiver a while to come up to the NFL and learn. Even if you're a polished technician in college, making the adjustment to the NFL is difficult because you're up against better athletes, higher quality of player, and just good route running isn't enough. You've got to have all the other little bits that go with it as well, and you've got to perfect yourself into the perfect machine to do it all. And it's taken him time, but he was never just a speed guy. It was how the Lions used him. They just threw air balls down the field to him. They never tried to get him involved down the middle of the field because that's always been Amon-Ra's domain, which is fine. But Amon-Ra doesn't have the home run speed that JMO has. So using them both, shock horror. I mean, this opened up things for Amon-Ra in this game as well. It opened it up for all the other players. They kept showing plays of JMO moving defenders out of position so that others had more space to work with. And he's always done it. So it is one of the biggest fallacies out there. It's just, you can spot a casual when they say JMO's just a speed guy because they're just reading cliff notes from somewhere from uninformed people. People like us who watched him since day one know he's so much more than that. He was always so much more than that. And on his day, he is, hell, he could be the best receiver in the NFL because of his traits that he has. He could one day be talked about as the best guy. That's his ceiling.
I'm not going to go through a drive summary. Everyone watched it and everyone enjoyed it, or found it boring after a time. After once you've killed the guy, you kind of have to stop punching him at some point. But I thought I'd read out some of the stats. These are all from True Media via the New York Times. The Lions generated EPA per play of 0.46. That's the highest of any team in any single game this season. Their play action rate was 26.5%. The rest of the year it has been 15%. So a significant uplift in play action passes. Offensive success rate was 56.5%. That's the highest we've had so far this season. That's not a surprise. However, their love of 12 personnel went away in this game. We only ran at 18.5% at the time. The only lower one we had was about 16%. Don't recall the game though; it wasn't in the listing. And we only had 35.5% of snaps from a shotgun. That was also the second lowest of the year. So a low 12 personnel rate, a low shotgun rate, high success rate, high play action rate. It all adds up to a really big change. And maybe that is specific to the Commanders. Maybe we'll find out. But we do know is that it did work. And what is especially gratifying, no penalties on the Lions. 6th time in Campbell's career as a Lion that they had no penalties in a game. And considering that we've actually really, really struggled penalty-wise this year, that is maybe one of the most impressive things. I think that's all I have for this. So I'm just going to go into stock up, stock down, unless you have anything else you want to talk about, big picture-wise.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, like I say, it was very professional. It was very well executed. It was played with the right mindset and the right tempo. Like they never backed off. They kept going for the jugular. So No, I was just very impressed. Obviously, again, the level of opposition makes me skeptical about whether we can do this against a good team, but at the same point, again, you've got to beat who's put in front of you on the day. And they did that. And like I say, it's just nice that they're riding the crest of a wave and they're using all their weapons again. So yeah, I can't really. I've got very little in the way of complaints from this game. They did just about everything they could. Apart from special teams are still crap. Dave Fitt probably gets a down for this game because they're just useless at this point. They're going to cost us a playoff game if this doesn't get better, and I'll say that with confidence right now. So, you know, Dan needs to get after him next. He's gone after Morton. Now he needs to get after his special teams coach.
How many bad plays did the special teams have yesterday?
Again, there's not many high leverage plays, really. But the big return was early doors when it was a close game, and it's a common theme right now. You've got to get better.
No doubt you've got to get better. I do think, though, that actually kick return coverage was fine bar one snap, and we kicked off a lot in this game. Like, we faced
Mm.
it a good amount of the time. They got one to midfield. Like, I don't want to blow this up to be something that it's not. Hogan Hassan for the missed extra point had a bad snap. That caused Bates to kind of hang on to it a bit and kind of shank it a bit low, so it got blocked. I don't think that's on the coordinator either. So, the one that was broken big was my guy Nick Whiteside took a terrible angle and couldn't react to a one cut. I mean, I do think it's not that they're being put in a bad position. It's that the players aren't necessarily executing, and it's like defense, and people say it's really hard year on year to maintain good defense because it's such a variable thing. I think special teams is the same thing, and I put this to Ash yesterday, and I'm going to ask you the same question. When it comes down to the coordinators, I kind of don't care about execution in some ways, as long as demonstrably it is execution and not scheme. Do you think the special teams are badly coached? Because if so, then we can have a discussion about whether his job's at risk, Fib. But if the answer is no, then I kind of just give it carte blanche. And I'm here, and I'm going to say that I think that Fip's a bloody good coach, and he's probably doing a very, very good job still, and his players are letting him down.
But at the same point, did he do a really good job with an elite team, but he can't do the job with lesser talent? Because I think he's got less talent. I think we said it last week. When this build started, we had a team full of great special teamers occupying a 53 spot when really they probably shouldn't. They were on the roster because there was no one better. As this team has evolved and got better, you don't just have specialist special teamers anymore knocking around at a penny a dozen. Remember the entire linebacker core when we started it just used to be glorified special teamers. They were wonderful special teamers, but they didn't really offer you a lot else. You don't have that anymore, so you have to use more first teamers than that in there. So maybe your overall quality of special teamers has gone down a bit, but it's up to you as a coach to adapt to it. So, I think maybe he's also benefited from having better players in the past and now is adapting. But I think, these big mistakes, they're not, we're not used to them. Like, really, it's been great over the years. So. It's not anything that's like uber concerning just yet, but it needs to be evened out at some point. You need to stop giving up these big returns because other teams might have punished us a lot more.
Breaking news. And it was posted by you 10 minutes ago in the Discord. But the draft pick is back. The Egyptian is on the team. Defensive end Ahmed Hassanin is signed to the practice squad. And that is massive news for the young man.
I mean, it's good for him. Obviously to fight back from his injury, which is great. But I think he'll stay there now. I'm not anticipating seeing much of him this year, if anything. So, keep him on the practice squad, protect him if someone's sniffing around him. But I think year two is where you're going to see more of him now, because where are we going to put all these guys? We've not got much room on this defensive line to fit, and you've got to fit three. You've got to fit Pascal back. You've got to fit Davenport back. You've got to fit Hassanin back. Who are you getting rid of? Like, you're not going
What,
to keep
Lacey and
Lacey.
Wheat?
Yeah, but Lacey's playing good.
Yeah, Lacey is playing good.
Lacey's not, and especially when you've got absolute scrubs like Davenport who've done bugger all for this team. I'm not giving up Lacey for Davenport.
You're
You
not,
know,
but do you think the Lions might? Because that is the real question, and they have shown to a fault that they love that man.
yeah, it's like a toxic ex who you just can't let go of. Or they've never done anything good for you, but you inexplicably love them. Pascal, you know, I'm not getting guys like AQM go. Lacey's done well. Wheat, when has been used, has been decent. You look in the interior, Lopez is looking good. There's guys working in there. Where are all these guys going to go on the roster? I think you're going to struggle. So, they've opened Pascal's window up. You would assume they want to put him back in. If they love Davenport so much, you'd assume they're going to try and put him back in. You can't fit Hassanin in there as well.
No,
There
no,
aren't
you
three
can't.
guys on this defensive line who you're going to let go. And like I say, there are players I've seen actually play football this year who've made positive plays for the Detroit Lions, not sit on a sickbed doing nothing. So I think the odds of seeing Hassanin on the roster are very slim. I think you'll see some elevations and he'll go back down, but I don't really think it means much for us. Really, AQM has filled a role now, which means he's not needed this year. So it's good he's back, but I don't expect to see much of him at all unless they're going to let one of Pascal or Davenport go.
I think that if he does slowly make his return, that when it comes to the playoffs, you may see him get elevated 3 straight times. I think if we make it all the way, divisional conference championship, Super Bowl could be where he can make his mark from the practice squad. It wouldn't surprise me at all.
Depends. They've got a long way to go yet, so
Oh, I'm counting my
obviously,
chickens.
obviously he's just on the practice squad, so we'll see. But I don't expect them to use him very much in the coming weeks. I don't expect to see him at all.
Stock up, stock down then, sir. Who are you shouting out this week?
I mean, obviously, I shout out JMO. I think JMO was the catalyst in this game, which just opened up everything good offensively that happened. So I want to give JMO will be my first big shout out there. Like when he's on form, when he's getting the ball in his hands, he's the difference maker on this offense that just makes it oh so much more dangerous. And not anyone else really has that impact on the team that he does.
Yeah. I'm going to give a big shout out to Graham Glasgow because the man has had a torrid season and he has probably had to deal with everyone and his mother calling him shit, washed, done, can we replace him, do we move him to guard, and he goes out there and puts his best performance on tape of the season comfortably. That takes some fucking balls. And, suffers an injury, comes back in, still looks terrific. I know the Washington defense aren't terrific, but up front, if you're dealing with Payne and Kinlaw for the time that they were on the field in Payne's case, they're no mugs up front, especially with the centre where Graham's got to deal with either one of them. And then when they're out of the game, you got Johnny Newton to deal with. Like, they ain't no scrubs.
I mean, if you're gonna do the O-line stuff, I'd give it to our Sheikah. He's the only redeeming feature we have of backup on that line, and he comes in and plays a really good game for us. Like it was critical. I think having his experience in there is big for this team. We've literally got no one else we can rely on as solid backups for entire games other than him. And he just came in like he'd not missed a beat. Like he's played so well for us, and to constantly keep getting chucked back down into the depth can't be easy. But every time this team needs him, he stands up, says, "Hey, I'm here," and does his level best for the team. So I will put Howard Sheikah up there as well, offensively.
I'd also put Khalif Raymond up there. For the first time in what seems like a long time, he was a feature weapon in this game. He had a huge amount of room. Pretty much every time he was running a route. He was just in acres of space and he was making the most of his opportunity, and I'd love to see a bit more of that.
Again, I think the team's done him dirty. Kind of like Monty, the team's done him dirty a lot, really. They're the ones who are responsible for the lack of production, but it's good to see him make his mark when he's called upon.
should we shift over to the defense because we could lord probably everyone on offense. So,
Yeah.
anyone else you want to shout out on defense?
Um, Obviously Terrian before obviously going out, but he just looks more and more every single week like he's becoming that guy. And shock horror, it took a bit of time for a corner to develop, but he's only 1.5 seasons in now, and he's beginning to look a lot more polished. He's beginning to look like the guy we invested in, and no one's talking about it because no one wants to admit they were wrong about him. But, and I know it's just Robbie Chosen and bits like that, but at the end of the day, got to deal with what's put up against you. And we've seen in recent weeks against better opposition, he's looked really good. So, Terry now obviously gets a shout out. He's developing it in leaps and bounds. And when Reed's back, Reed and Arnold are going to be one of the better pairs of corners in the league. So, I definitely would give Terrian a shout out.
Yeah. Yeah, Terrian was terrific. Only played 24 reps, which I think is a real shame because would have loved him to put a whole game together. My concern is that he's showed it now. And he did it last year where he came on strong in the second half of the season. My worry is that the concussion knocks him out for several games and he's kind of rebuilding again. And he always kind of seems to be behind the 8 ball with injury, and that just kind of sucks for him, really. But hopefully he'll be back this weekend. We have no word on how his recuperation from the concussion is coming. And, the variability of concussion is absolutely wild in terms of how long you can be out. He could be back for Sunday's game. We've seen that. He could have to go on IR, and we've seen that too. So, who knows with Terrian coming back at this point. It's hard not to pick out Roy Lopez. I mean, especially because our defensive line was stonewalled pretty much all game. I mean, we only had 2 sacks. But obviously, 1.5 of them was Branch. So otherwise, I thought, we're not doing stock down, but I thought everyone else on the defensive line actually didn't have a great day. And Lopez seemed to live in the backfield. He was only on the field for 12 defensive snaps, but he made his presence felt.
I mean, he's doing a service for the team because he's taking the pressure off Tyleek Williams to have to come in and be a star right away. That rotation's holding up now. Now Aleem's back. Now Reed is playing. Lopez is holding up that rotation, though we don't have to expose the rookie if we don't want to, which is critical for us. We've just never really had good depth in the DT room. Last year we were rolling out the broken corpse of Chris Smith and guys like that who were just terrible football players. Now we've got someone reliable who can come in there and get the job done. Not only that, he's doing it in a facet of his game he's not really known for. He's not a pass rusher. He's never been a pass rusher. He's meant to come in and clog up rushing lanes, but if he can add a little bit of juice on the interior as well in terms of pass rushing, that's great for us. But yeah, you've got to give him his though. He's in small chunks. He is making himself very valuable to this team. So I agree.
Anyone else on defense?
Branch. It's all about Brian. You saw why he's just the deciding factor on this team and why I love him so much. Like, it's just all round there is not a better defensive back on this team. He's going to go into the Hall of Fame one day when he's said and done. If he carries on the trajectory for his career, just the juice he brought to the pass rush. He's all around the field making tackles. Even if a reception was up against him, there's no yak because he's on the player so quickly. The closing speed to make tackles is tremendous. And he was just a menace. He was all over the field. He never stopped going. And as I say, he brought the pass rush much needed help from the outside, which, made for some game-changing plays. So Branch was just is imperious best because he was used everywhere, which is when he's best. Just keep using the man. Have him out there every single damn play because he's capable of something special.
He was excellent. He did get hit in coverage for a deep one to Jalen Lane. That was the only negative rep I can remember. Even that was very tight coverage and it was just good offensive play. It wasn't any negative on his part. I am expecting to see him get a fine today because he lowered their helmet and led with it into someone's chest. So don't be surprised if he gets a $40,000-$50,000 fine. That seems to be the norm. He's probably going to set a record for rookie contract fine number, but
I don't care.
I don't care. Yeah.
He's our guy, everyone has that guy who they will defend to death, who will just take penalty, he will take fines all the time, but who don't care because he's your player. People are just jealous of him. Every other team in the NFL would want Brian Branch on their side, and every other fan base would welcome him with open arms, no matter how much rubbish they talk about him. That's how you know you've got a good one. And may the fines continue. That's who he is. I don't care. There's a lot of Lions fans who are too prissy going, oh no, we need angels all over this team. No, you don't. You need some Brian Branches on your team to really meter out some punishment every now and then and to break the rules a little bit. You need rule benders on your team as much as you need angels. Brian Branch will forever be that guy for us. There is literally not a thing he could do that would make me hate him within reason.
I'm also going to say Jack Campbell is someone I want to shout out. He is so consistent now. He's such a tone setter for the team. The stop he made on the 2-point conversion attempt from the one after the holding penalty, when we'd already denied them with the sack by Anzalone that was chalked off. How he stopped the running play short of the goal line, I do not understand. But his core strength to stop someone running at that speed is incredible. But not just for that rep, just the way he leads the team and the way he carries himself. He's incredible.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's the guy we invested in. The 2-point conversion stop was just tremendous. Like he just that's raw strength and power, but he is the embodiment of this team. So yeah, he absolutely was tremendous. To be honest, one of the first game in forever, I don't think anyone had a bad game. I'm quite happy to just keep doing ups and ups and ups for this. Everybody, I guess the only one who had a bad game was Fox because he didn't have anything to do. He didn't even get to play, bless him.
Yeah, poor Fox. Right, that's the end of stock up, stock down, because as mentioned, I don't think there are any stock downs. So do you have anything else you want to shout out about this game before we move on to the rest of the weekend slate?
Is there anything else about this game? Kudos to all the Lions fans who made it seem like a home game. It was crazy. Like yeah, it was just a great atmosphere. Obviously, Lions fans are traveling really well. It was tremendous to see the takeover there, and it was just great overall. I enjoyed pretty much all of it, apart from the insufferable commentary. But no, they played the game the right way. They executed the right way. They fixed all the problems they had from last week. Um, it's just now again, can we do it against a team that's actually going to fight back next time? That's going to be the question. But we're trending in the right direction. So you've set a platform for yourself now, fellas. We've seen that you can do this. So let's go out there and do it when we play Philly next week, and then we can be really excited going forward.
Alright, I'm going to do what we did last week, which is draw the audio pod to a close here. If you want to hear our thoughts on the rest of the weekend slate, check us out on YouTube and Twitch. If you are listening to us live, we are staying and talking about the rest of the weekend slate, so just stay right there as we sign off on the audio show. Next episode is the College Football Podcast, looking back at Week 11, looking ahead to Week 12, another fantastic day of college ball, including a spectacular Indiana win very, very late to preserve their record. Our next show on the main podcast is going to be the Philadelphia Sunday Night Football preview. That's going to be on Thursday night. Hope you can all join us for that. Otherwise, you know where to find us on our socials. Thank you to everyone for your support. It was absolutely terrific, especially yesterday during the play-by-play commentary. Yesterday, the super chats and all the subscriptions and donations and what have you were all absolutely brilliant. So thank you very much for that. If you do want to join us for those, it's a good load of fun, especially when the commentators are fucking atrocious. So you know where we are if you want to join us for that. But otherwise, just want to thank my co-host Ant for doing this with me, and let's go Lions One Pride.
One Pride.
Recording stopped.
And we'll do the rest of the weekend slate right now, starting with, we did Thursday Night Football in the preview show, so I'll skip over that, and instead talk about a pretty fun Germany game, actually, in Berlin. The Falcons fall in overtime to the Indianapolis Colts, 31-25. It was the Jonathan Taylor show once again. 32 carries for 244 yards and 3 touchdowns. Oh, and he had 42 in the air as well. And
Yeah, I mean, he's back to the Jonathan Taylor that broke out all those years ago. People kind of forgot how good he was because obviously he had the injuries, he's had a couple of down years, but it's quite clear to everyone that he's back to 100% now and he's exactly the same guy that there were there. I mean, I did say this is one the Colts might lose because they find the good version of the Falcons. And to be fair to the Falcons, I think they did bring one of the better versions of themselves. But I mean, what was it? It was over 40 minutes of possession, I think it was for Indy in the end. And when you're running the football so consistently, you just ground and pound the team into dust. And eventually that's you could tell it had taken its toll in the end. The ground game just kept the Atlanta defense out there too long. Ultimately, what's the mitigating factor to this? Daniel Jones is still playing good football. Obviously, they've made a very big commitment to this season now. Having Source on that side and trading away all they did for him, and they look like they are ready to make a go at things this year. What are they, 8-2 now? They're pretty much going to be a lock in for the playoffs. They'll probably get home advantage. If you're facing, I don't want to travel to Indy and face Jonathan Taylor and this team feeling as funky as they are right now. They're the ultimate wild card in the AFC. And they're doing it in America and they're doing it in Germany as well. They didn't show any jet lag, so yeah, it was a lovely game, great game. I know all the Falcons UK guys went to it again. Commiserations to them. Their season is dead and buried, but still been fun. Hopefully it'll be the Lions next year.
next game up is the Giants at the Bears. The Bears run out winners 24-20, and it has the Bears faithful proclaiming Caleb Williams the best quarterback in their history. I say it only slightly tongue-in-cheek. It did cause a loss of a job as the head coach of the Giants has been fired today. They went into just before the end of the third quarter and with the ball up 17-7, and they had the ball at the Chicago 28. So they were 10 points up with 20 minutes to go, and they had the ball in field goal range. And they end up somehow losing this game. They restored a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. They still had a 3-point lead and had the ball at 3rd and 7 with 3 minutes to go. And then they still got the ball back down 4 with Russell Wilson coming in with a chance to win the game and just couldn't bloody make it happen. I mean, Dart still looks incredible in fits and bursts at the very least, but something that the Giants can hang their hat on for future seasons. But it was an absolute travesty that the Bears won this game, even as an impartial observer.
Russell Wilson can go suck a goat. I don't even know what that means. It's just I want to say mean things about him. Like that game was theirs while Dart was playing. You bring in Danger Witch and it all goes down, but you could tell. I even said that. I said you know that the Giants are going to blow this one. They just are. The Bears look a good team this year, but the Bears are also benefiting from playing a fourth place schedule. The Giants are a terrible football team, and yes, they will proclaim this as, oh, look at this, it's a massive victory, we're back. Let's see how they do next year when they're playing a harder strength of schedule. They've got so many cakewalk games at the moment, it's unreal. Obviously, it was also horrible to see Motormouth doing so well. You know what he's going to be like going forward. He had, what, 2 sacks from his safety position. I absolutely cannot stand him. He's going to become very hated here very quickly. Gardner Johnson is again. But you've got to give the Bears credit. You've got to beat what's in front of you. They were 10 down late on. They did find a way in which they've not done in recent years. They are a mild concern right now. Again, we've seen what they're like when they play us, an actual good football team. They're still pretty rubbish. But against mediocre teams, they're decent opposition now. And they will get a lot of wins because of the schedule they play. But I'm still not impressed with them, really, that much. It's just the Giants are absolute boulder dash. Interesting to see who they hire now. I d- they need to get it right because it's just you've got your quarterback of the future there. You've got to get the head coach in with him now, and if you can get that right, but they've kept the same GM, which is baffling because he's useless. I think they're just forever going to be a garbage team, the Giants are going forward.
Don't disagree. Moving on to objectively the funniest game of the week, the Bills fall to the Dolphins 30-13. The Bills got destroyed, but they didn't get destroyed by being utterly hopeless with ball in hand, down to down. They were very effective in this game, but they kept turning the ball over, especially in key situations, especially in the Miami Dolphins side of the field. Josh Allen had a pick. They had two fumbles they lost that seemed at every single moment they were taking every opportunity to give the ball back to Miami. And Tua only had 15 completions in this game for 173 yards. He also had two interceptions of his own. But Achan goes 22 carries for 174 yards and two touchdowns. And that's enough for the Bills to be completely blown away. They did not score until the fourth quarter, frankly, and this, from a team that has aspirations this year, was an abject embarrassment.
I would just like to say thank you to the Miami Dolphins. This has done me a world of good. Because I don't want to be a team like Buffalo and Baltimore. And these guys have had windows for a very long time, and they're coming to the end of that now, and they've got nothing to show for it. I've said a lot of bad things about the Dolphins this year, and rightfully so. I think I've said a lot of correctly bad things about the Dolphins this year, but I'm not going to sit here and say the Bills threw it away. The Dolphins were a bloody good team in this game. And by saying that the Bills threw it away is completely disrespectful to them. The Bills didn't throw this game away. The Dolphins grabbed it out their hands and smashed them into the ground. This was, on defense, they were amazing. Iffy was really good, made some big plays in this one. But, when Josh Allen's on one of them marauding runs and he's dragging two defenders along with him, they punch it out. They keep fighting. They got interceptions through the air. They brought a lot of pressure on Josh Allen. It's not often you see him look as flustered as he did. They forced the Bills into mistakes. It wasn't the Bills playing bad ball, it was the Dolphins playing really good football. And at the same time, it's a terrible win for the Dolphins because it doesn't really mean anything. They're losing draft position. Their season is obviously dead and buried. It gives Mike McDaniel something to say, oh, well, look, bring me back this year, even though we know he's not the head coach of the future last year. It's probably going to be detrimental to them in the long term. But you know what? I take my hat off to them. They made the Bills look like chumps. And even when Tua did turn the ball over, even when some of the game did look like it was going against it, even in that fourth quarter when I thought they're going to throw it away here, the Bills are going to come back, they always had an answer in their pockets. And they always made a play which took it back out of the Bills' hands again. And I must say it was very impressive. So, yeah, the Miami Dolphins played a great game and great for them. Reading Bills Mafia comments today has been very, very funny. They're turning on Brandon Beam very quickly. So, yeah, well done, Dolphins. You deserve that one.
Next one up is the Ravens beating the Vikings 27-19. Lamar only threw for 176 yards. Excuse me. Derek Henry had 20 carries for 75 yards, so only 3.75 yards a carry. A fairly unremarkable performance by the Baltimore Ravens, but they rise to 4-5. Minnesota, on the other hand, JJ McCarthy with two of the worst picks you will ever see. He couldn't be bailed out by Jalen Naylor. They also had a fumble lost by Miles Price off a kickoff, I believe, that put the Ravens in scoring territory. It looked like, that Baltimore gave the Vikings all the chances in the world to come back in this game, and the Vikings couldn't walk through the door. McCarthy was less than 50% completions. This wasn't a good game at all. But why couldn't they have done it last week?
No, I know. I think again, it was like the Green Bay game. I think we just had an off week. And if Dan had been calling plays last week, I think we'd have smashed the Vikings. I do genuinely believe it was play calling that did it. So, um, how on earth do the Baltimore Ravens, finishing in first place in their division, get a schedule in a row that goes Bears, Dolphins, Vikings, Browns, Jets? Like, that's a scrub schedule. That is a completely finishing first in your conference means you're meant to get a hard schedule. They've just had this magic voodoo of facing the right conferences and having a rubbish division themselves. Like at 1 and 5, you're there like they should be in trouble, and they're not. They've just got an absolute ton of cakewalks coming up, so they'll be able to force themselves back into contention again. I hate it. I hate the fact they've got this thing so easy and getting back to where they need to be. Like the Browns next week is just a joke. The Jets. How the are you facing the Jets? Really? Um, but they still don't look good. They're just facing a load of bad teams and they're sort of breezing by them. But I think objectively, the Ravens still look like a bad football team right now. They're just getting the lay of the land. But the Vikings, it's great. Those all high on their horses and everything, thinking that they're something. They've been put back in their place again, and I think their expectations have been realigned sufficiently.
Next, we have Sicko's Game of the Week. Browns fall to the Jets 27-20, which featured net passing yards for the New York Jets of 42. Dylan Gabriel went 17-32 for 167 and 2 touchdowns, but he took 6 sacks for 47 yards. Breece Hall was fine, 21 for 83. He also led the team in receiving, 1 of 1 for 42 and a touchdown. Yes, that's right. When they had 42 yards net receiving, Breece Hall had that on 1 catch. The Jets had nothing. Absolutely nothing. So how do they win this game? In back-to-back special teams plays, Jets housed 2 kick and punt returns. And that's how the Browns lose a game they objectively dominated. And special teams do actually matter.
And the fact that the Browns jumped on what was quite clearly the most obvious in 4th down jumpathon. Like, literally, the Browns were never going to snap a football. The Jets were never going to snap the football as long as they lived. The Browns still jumped in an obvious situation where, like, you're stupid.
Yeah.
You're absolutely stupid. The bonehead of mistakes. And you know what? I do feel sorry for them. Poor Brett had a meltdown in our Discord. Like, I'm surprised if he'd not gone to a shrink today to try and talk this over with somebody. But they're just a clown show. And again, it's fine for the Jets, but I mean, I guess it doesn't matter with all the first round picks they've got coming up, but with how bad the league's been this year, you kind of want to be pushing the top echelons here. A lot of tanking teams won this week, which has just made things very interesting, but I don't think it's a good win for the Jets. But hey ho, it is what it is. It was still ugly.
The only person I think to come out of this game with any credit is called Will McDonald IV. He's called Will McDonald IV and he had 4 fucking sacks. Fair play to the man. I think he came into the season much maligned as a mid-first round pick of the Jets. He has come to play this year. 7 sacks total now on the year. I think he is, especially in a team which has openly said it's tanking with all of the draft capital that they've now acquired for some of their players. He has come to play and he's still doing very, very well. So I just want to shout him out.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Next one was a cracking game. Patriots over the Buccaneers, 28-23, featuring a quarter where no team scored more than 7 points in it, but each of them scored points in every single quarter, which is just a fun little wrinkle to this game. Drake May was borderline poor. He was fine. I won't say he was poor. He was fine. But he was 16-31, so about 50% completions, 272 touchdowns and a pick. Baker Mayfield was, on the other hand, terrific, but against an inspired Patriots defense. He was 28-43, 273, 3 touchdowns, no picks. The Tampa Bay went at 5 yards a carry, but New England and Travion Henderson, 14 carries, 147 yards and 2 touchdowns. And this is the story of a New England team that has seen Drake May elevate it And for the first time this season, I really think it elevated itself. They really rose to support him when he wasn't firing on all cylinders. They won the game for this team.
I mean, are you going to apologize for laughing at me when I said the Patriots would win this? When we did the predictions, I said the Patriots were going to win. I distinctly remember you guffawing in my direction.
Yep, I'm not sure I poo-pooed it as hard as you're saying, but yeah, sure.
No, you did. You did.
I'll have to check the tape.
Yeah, you'll have to check the tape. Video replay is conclusive. Guilty. No, the Pats
VAR,
look different this year.
VAR.
We'll have to wait about 10 minutes for the decision. People ain't got time to wait 10 minutes while we, just sit here and discuss amongst ourselves.
Offside. Anyway.
You're not Liverpool anymore. You don't get all the decisions going your way, Matthew. So
the fuck?
Yeah.
The unluckiest team for VAR, and you call that out?
Yeah.
How dare you?
You're like the Patriots. You get all the calls for years, and then one year you don't get them, and then you complain saying,
"What are you on about?
Rigged.
What are you on about?" Did you see the Liverpool goal, by the way, this weekend with Virgil's one be getting ruled out?
Yeah, I did. That was pretty terrible.
Fucking outrageous.
It was. Can't critique that one at all. But anywho, were we the Patriots? As I say, for the last month or so now, they look different. They look back to their intimidating best again, which is not surprising given Vrabel's there. Vrabel's like Dan to us to them. He knows exactly what New England football is about and needs to be. And, he's stamped that identity on there pretty quick. But, it's not just the run game. Like I said, he's got a star young quarterback now, and they've given him weapons to work with. And that offense looks pretty balanced. But when you've got a great run game like they do, they're built well to go on the road and win games. Especially when you go into, not many teams go to Raymond James and win and bully them off the field and hang with them. But they stop the Bucs running the ball. It's back to the Bucs of old. Like Baker Mayfield can throw for 900 yards. It doesn't matter if the run game's not helping him. He can get lots of fancy stats, and he had lots of fancy stats in this game. But ultimately, the Pats stopped him running the football, which took a dimension away and gave them that little edge they needed to win it. And their offense was tremendous. Like, it was just solidly consistent during the game. Like you say, no double-digit quarters, but they scored in every quarter. They kept the ball moving. They didn't drop off. So, I knew he'd do well there. I'm surprised how quickly it's happened. I think if I was to go back and watch the tape, I'd say I expect him to do well, but not right away. But this is how I expected them to look in year 2. And they're looking like that in year 1, which is scary for a lot of the rest of the league. Should be scary for teams like the Buffalo Bills, who've had the rule of that division now for 5 years, and now Big Brother's back, and they're going to have to deal with them, and they've not won anything while Big Brother's been gone. So, but as much as we all hate it, the league is a better place when the Patriots are good. So, that's the direction they're going in. But there are not any games where I would just rule them out anymore. I think they can hang with just about anybody given this team they've got.
Patriots have got Buffalo in week 14.
Yeah, it's about a month away, isn't it?
Yeah, 14th of December. Rightly. And so they're 2 games up, and they have a win on the board against Buffalo. So even if Buffalo win, New England are still going to have a tied head-to-head record with them. So they are effectively a game in front, even in the worst-case scenario.
And the Bills have been losing in conference. They've got a loss against the Dolphins now. So division record comes into it. I think they've not lost to the Jets, but yeah, they've lost 1 to the Dolphins. They've lost 1 to the Patriots. I don't know if the Patriots have any in-conference losses, division losses, sorry.
So Patriots are 2-0 in division, Bills are 2-2, but they're both 4-2 in conference.
Yeah, but the division one could be big. Even if the Bills win, the Patriots could still have a better division record when it's said and done if they finish out against the Dolphins.
I thought it was conference record as the next tiebreaker, isn't it? After your head-to-head record. I don't think divisional record makes any difference. No. I don't think so.
Not in terms of finishing first in your division?
I don't think so.
Oh.
I might be wrong. I submitted to the people listening.
There's about 8 tiebreakers. So
Yes.
I can't remember which order they go in.
Yeah. Right, let's move off that because I really do think it's the Patriots' division to lose now. Um, we'll move on to one which will make you sad instead. Saints beat the Panthers 17-7 in, frankly, one of the worst performances the Panthers are going to put on tape in a long, long time. Even when they were a really, really bad team, they didn't look quite this hopeless. So that was a very disappointing performance to put on tape. I think Bryce was not helped by some key drops in there, but he threw an awful pick. On the other hand, Tyler Shook was fantastic. 19 of 27, 282, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Olave was back to himself, 5 of 8 for 104 on a touchdown. Bryce, as well as a pick, also had a fumble lost. I don't think the Saints looked particularly great as an entire team, but they did enough here so that if the Panthers didn't execute, they'd win the game. And the Panthers just kind of laid an egg here. Especially, going up against a Saints team looking to go 6-4, suddenly they're 5-5 and kind of staring down the barrel a little bit.
I mean, they showed who they are at the minute. They're a team that is still not far enough developed that they are above having a game like this. They still have a soft shell to them in some areas. Like, we've seen some good performance. Like, they've been bad. They've been really bad the last few years. I think, overall, they've still made great strides this year. Been at 5-5, a 500 team. You've still got the ability to finish above 500 this year. Like, an 8-9 win team this year for them would be a very good achievement given where they were at. So, obviously it's awful and the Saints are a trash team, but they are still not out the woods yet, is my thing. So I wouldn't push the panic button over losing one like this.
I just want to say, by the way, you were right, and I should learn my lesson to not argue with you about NFL stuff. Division games is the second tiebreaker after head-to-head.
Oh no, Christ, you know more about me than this stuff. So, but anywho, sorry, yeah, the Panthers are not beneath these results yet. I think they're going to be just fine. There's still a lot of rebuilding that needs to be done on that team. I just think they're still going in the right direction. And for me, I don't mind because I absolutely detest the Saints, and this win takes them out the number 1 pick and gives it to the Titans. So let the Saints ruin their future with some meaningless wins that mean nothing. I don't mind that. It's funny to me.
Now we move on to the most hilarious game of the week. Jags fall to the Texans 36-29 in a game where the Jaguars were up 29-10 entering the fourth quarter. They had a 19-point lead and conceded 26 unanswered points against a Davis Mills-led offense. Frankly, and without further comment, I think the Jags should be ashamed of themselves.
See, I'm going to focus on the positive here and say I am absolutely delighted for Davis Mills because he gets a bad rap for doing nothing wrong. He just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. He's still an NFL caliber quarterback in there who's just waiting to be reclaimed by somebody. And this was big boy performance from him after not everything. I mean, down 19, you got a lot of pressure on you. People thinking, oh, well, this team's just terrible without CJ Stroud. That is not the case. They showed a lot of resilience. And yes, they're coming up against one of the dumbest teams in the NFL. But still, coming back from 19 against any team in the NFL is a tough endeavor. It very rarely happens. So, I was delighted to see Davis Mills get that win under his belt. Hopefully it will lead, people will look back on that and go, maybe we'll give this guy a start. Maybe a team in transition looking for something will go, we'll give him a start. And there's something there to be had with him. But yeah, it's just not a good look for the Jags. The fact they're still above 500 is hilarious. Obviously the Texans, yeah, I still think their season's a bust. They're all 4-5. It's going to be tough for them to catch up, but who knows? But I'm just happy for Davis Mills overall.
Another hilarious game next up was the Cardinals at the Seahawks. Seahawks run out 44-22 victors. Same scoreline as the Lions game. Did it feature Seattle having a particularly good offensive performance? Sam Darnold threw 12 passes. 12. They scored 44 points. They did rush the ball 46 times. Charbonnet and Walker got 14 apiece. This game got out of hand very early on. It was 21-0 after the first quarter and 38-7 at the half. And Jigbert failed to get 100 yards, but when you throw the ball 12 times, it's going to be a tall order to get there. They also fumbled the ball 4 times and lost it twice. They still blew this team away, and this is just stupid.
Yes, talking about teams who are already in Carbo in their minds, I think the Cardinals have been there a few weeks at this point. They look like a team who's given up. And I mean, when you're a 3-win team with Jacoby Brissett as your quarterback, then yeah, you should pretty much give up on the year. It's just not going anywhere for them. It's not happened. Obviously, change is going to come there again soon. They're going to have to start from scratch. Looks like the Kyler experiment is probably over. You're going to have a new quarterback under center next year. I think a rebuild is looming and it's coming very quickly. And, better for them it comes sooner rather than later. Just get this stuff out of your system now. But yeah, they don't look competitive anymore, which is a shame. Could have been for this team, but yeah, there's just nothing there anymore.
Next up, a massive win for the Rams in division against the 49ers. They win 42-26 in Santa Clara. They go to 7-2. 49ers fall to 6-4. Both quarterbacks had really good days. Matthew Stafford, 24 of 36, 280, 4 touchdowns, no picks. He broke 400 touchdowns, becoming the 9th quarterback to do so. He hasn't thrown an interception since week 3. Mac Jones was 33 of 39 for 319, 3 touchdowns and a pick. The big thing here is that LA could run the ball and control the clock. Therefore, San Francisco really struggled in that regard. Their 21 carries went for 74 yards only. McCaffrey had 12 of those carries but couldn't get a lot going. Juwan Jennings had a fumble which he lost. Otherwise, I think this is just a terrific performance by a Rams offense which is absolutely firing.
Yeah, they look dangerous. And are they on our schedule this year? I think they are at some
We're
point,
going to
aren't
do a
they?
meetup for it December 14th in Birmingham.
Yes. I'm not looking forward to playing them this year. They are a young team who's feisty, who's got their act together and looks back to being very dangerous again. That defensive line especially looks great. Stafford's playing some of his best ball in years. They've got the playmakers in. Puka's still playing well every week, despite seemingly being hurt every single week. The guy's still got wheels. He's still going. It's the Rams are the team I would like to play least out of anybody this year. I feel like if you offered me a playoff matchup against anyone, they're the ones I don't want to play. There's just an ominous feel about them, and they could potentially go pretty far. So, yeah, obviously San Fran. I don't know. San Fran are they're over the hump now. Even with you can't blame the quarterback play. I don't think this game's any different if Brock Purdy's in there. Mac Jones has shown that he is still pretty decent. So it's not the offense that's the trouble. The defense is struggling. I know they've got a few injuries and that, but yeah, the Rams are just putting belt to ass on these now, so
Mm.
it's impressive, and I don't really want to play them to be fair.
I'm with you. They're my Super Bowl favourites, and I don't think it's particularly close. I think they're doing fantastic stuff. So
I mean, I would hate that. I mean, what bigger indictment that the Rams go win a Super Bowl, blow everything up essentially, and then get back to the Super Bowl before we even get there. Like, let's hope that doesn't happen because they have endured in full rebuild. So
yeah,
let's pray to God they don't.
and they've been competitive during that rebuild, even though they blew it up pretty much entirely. So it's very impressive what Les Snead has done over there.
Mm.
But moving on to Sunday Night Football, an absolutely terrible game won by the Chargers 25-10 against the Steelers team, all at sea. Aaron Rodgers 16 of 31, 161, a touchdown, 2 picks. They ran the ball fine. Jalen Warren 14 for 70 was fine. But Justin Herbert 20 of 33, 220, a touchdown, no picks, didn't exactly set the world alight. Kimani Vidal is still doing bits, and I'm here for it. 25 carries, 95 yards, and a touchdown. And Lad McConkey is proving that short white guys can do it as wide receivers in this league. 4 of 6 for 107 and a touchdown. He is still proving me right, and I thank him for it in the draft process. So, yeah, and a terrible game. not one to write home about. I mean, the Chargers didn't have either starting tackle, and the Steelers looked like they were starting to play well on defense, but it just evaporated.
Again, another one I called. I said the Steelers are due that loss because they love to be a bog standard 500 team, and when you get 2 games above 500, that's not Mike Tomlin football. Like he needs to be closer than that. He can't be a few wins above, and they were always going to screw it up, and they look terrible. They look absolutely terrible. And I put the hot take out there earlier in the chat. I'm just going to say this outright now. Mike Tomlin is a average head coach. He is a very average head coach who has no business being in a Hall of Fame discussion right now. He inherited a great team, won a Super Bowl with it, and he's coasted off that reputation for years now. Like their inability to go out and be dominant anymore and to win games, like their strength, they put so much resource into that defense that they cannot kill Justin Herbert without his two elite starting tackles. That the defensive line that is sketchy. They're facing the tiny Troy Trojan who is just proving everybody wrong, but at the minute he's not lit the world on fire. And you lay an egg like that and you just look awful and you're cycling some old vets out there who just don't care anymore. Like this is the epitome of this is hell. I would hate to be a Steelers fan more than anybody else in this league because you just know the second you look like you're turning a corner and you're going up a bit, they're going to do something boneheaded to bring themselves back down again. And then that's what this is. He is a bang average head coach who is not even maybe top 10 in this league for me. He's just shown he's mediocre. He can't adapt to the way this game's going. He's got nothing in the Arsenal bar. It's my way or the highway. And this was just an indictment for the Steelers. It's just never going to change until he's given the kick. But he's garnered this aura about him where they convince him to keep him every year because every other team in the league would have him. I wouldn't have him here in Detroit. I'm just going to say it right now. If we needed a head coach, I would not hire him because he's just not that good.
And he doesn't hire particularly well, which is the damning indictment I have of him, really. He's a great people manager. He keeps problem people under wraps. That's the only positive thing you can say about him anymore. That's us done. That's all of the games recapped. Obviously, Monday Night Football's coming. Eagles, Packers. Whoever wins, we lose. Whoever loses, whatever. Anyway, and anything else you want to say about week 10 before we sign off?
Just that I hope the two teams tonight knock 10 bells out of one another. We could do with that. Obviously, I am never, ever, ever going to root for the Packers, so I do hope the Eagles win because we can beat the Packers in a few weeks. We can beat the Eagles next week, so we can get a win over them. But I just hope they knock the ever-loving shizer out of one another. Might stay up and watch it, I don't know, but yeah, it's gonna. At least it's a decent Monday night one to watch, and hopefully the Packers are put down to earth with a bang.
Fingers crossed for that one. It's just an absolute peak hate watch, so I'm going to look forward to that. Anyway, thank you to everyone for listening. Cheers, Ant, for doing this for me once again. Hope you guys all have a great week. See you for the college football podcast later on in the week, and then the Eagles preview on Thursday. Here we go again. Let's go, lads. One pride.
One pride.